Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Kneon. I'm not here with Geeky Sparkles. We're going to talk about Microsoft, and they're dropping their DEI reporting. And the media is blaming Trump. I think a lot of companies didn't really want to do it to begin with. I think Microsoft probably definitely did, but I think it wound up becoming very divisive, very bad for the bottom line. They thought they're going to chase a modern audience with all this DEI stuff, and they actually pushed away a lot of their audiences. We've seen a lot of boycotts of different companies who are very outspoken about this. Now, I don't believe for a minute that they're dropping, I guess, internally the DEI stuff. I think they're just not reporting on it. They're not calling attention to it because there for a couple of years, every time a company did something progressive, they would want to have a ticker tape parade to congratulate themselves, and or a pride parade to congratulate themselves. And now they're just going to quietly jerk each other off, I guess. I don't know, but we're gonna talk about this. It's just a sign of the times, right? I mean, really, peak DEI, peak woke, peak, whatever you want to call it, progressivism. It lasted less than a decade, probably 5 to 8 years, and a lot of companies are walking it back. Now, the proof is going to be in the product. Will Microsoft, just go back to making, in the case of video games, just go back to making straight up, no pun intended, Halo games or whatever, solid video games, and drop all of this? I don't know. I mean, if they're smart, they will. A lot of companies are walking it back. We've talked about how Disney, it looks like they're walking a lot of this stuff back because it's just not popular with consumers. If it were popular with consumers, they'd be all about it, right? But I think they massively underestimated the pushback, and they massively overestimated the appetite for the DEI. So let's talk about this before we get into it any further. Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. Geeky sitting this one out. We kind of split up today, not literally, to divide and conquer. We got a lot of stuff going on right now. Go out to more.clownfishtv.com and check out more content over there and forums. And we're getting kind of building a life raft, I think, off of YouTube, just in case. I don't trust YouTube. You shouldn't trust YouTube. Nobody should trust YouTube. They should not trust any Google company at this point. They're clearly in it for themselves. And that's why companies like Microsoft were doing this. It wasn't because they were trying to be nice. It wasn't because they were really trying to be progressive. It's because they thought it would benefit them financially. They thought it would give, they would get all kinds of fist bumps. They would get all kinds of, potentially low or no interest loans or funding. If they, met these requirements. And now that it's obvious, it actually hurts your bottom line because people are tired of being lectured and having DEI talking points shoved in their face all the damn time. It's hurting their bottom line, right? That's why they're walking it back. It's not because they're personally afraid of Donald Trump. It's because they're afraid of America. They're afraid of America boycotting their company. And Microsoft, Windows 11 is not a very sexy operating system. I'm going to be honest. I have a video coming up. We've been working on it for a couple days now, showing you how to switch Windows 11 for Linux Mint and then turn your Linux Mint machine into basically a Steam machine. We're going to turn another mini PC into a Steam machine, show you how to do that, show you how to install Linux. I don't like Windows 11. I've said before, I hate it. I think it's bloated. I think it's spyware. And I think a lot of people are noping out. I think if it were easy to nope out, I think normies would. But most of the people I know who are working in tech are using the opportunity to jump ship from Microsoft. The transition between 11 or 10 and 11, right? They're leaving. So this is coming from The Verge. Microsoft is quietly walking back its diversity efforts. Microsoft is towing the line in Trump's America. Oh, here we go. Microsoft's been publishing data about the gender, race, and ethnic breakdown of its employees for more than a decade. Since 2019, it's been publishing a full diversity and inclusion report annually, and at the same time made reporting on diversity a requirement for employee performance reviews. Maybe that's part of the problem. You got to hit all those check boxes. Now it's scrapping its diversity report and dropping diversity and inclusion as a company-wide core priority for performance reviews just months after Donald Trump issued an executive order to try and eradicate workforce diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. I think to some degree, but I think they're looking at the situation, and they'll blame Trump, of course, but I think they're like, yeah, this is hurting our bottom line. Like, people don't want to hear about this shit. They don't. And you've got guys out there like Robbie Starbuck who are actively going out and trying to ferret out these kinds of programs and putting these companies on blast on Fox News. So yeah, they're like, yeah, this is middle America is not having it. GameFile, this would be what? Stephen Totillo? Yeah. He reported last week that Microsoft will cease publication of its diversity and inclusion reports this year. We're not doing a traditional report this year as we've evolved beyond that to formats that are more dynamic and accessible, stories, videos, and insights that show inclusion in action. So we're going to, pan around the office and you'll see some blue hair and maybe a black person or two. That person could possibly be gay. Those shoes are really gay. Who knows? But we're not going to call attention to it, right? Our mission and commitment to our culture and values remain unchanged, empowering every person and organization to achieve more. That should be your top priority. And it shouldn't matter. It shouldn't matter the color of their skin. It shouldn't matter who they sleep with. It shouldn't matter their sexual orientation. And here's the thing, too, is that these DEI mandates, and we talk about this at length, this whole, forced diversity stuff, it actually hurts the groups that it's trying to help. And the reason it does is, when they're in a mad dash to hire people of a certain kind of person, well, one, you're distilling people down to their physical traits or whatever, religious traits, gender identity, right? So that's kind of a problem in and of itself. But if you hire people based almost solely on checkboxes that are not qualified, and they scrub out, not because of their race or gender or sexual orientation, but they scrub out because they were not qualified for the job, then the next person that comes along, because humans have bias, it's in our nature, there's a reason for it, it's a survival thing. It's not always right, but just people, we're animals, we have biases. It is what it is, right? The next time a person like that comes along, the people in charge are going to be like, well, we hired one of those people last time and look at what happened. And they're not going to give the next person a chance. And then if it happens on a wider scale, then, and all these stories hit, like, look at what's going on with Gen Z. We've been covering this. Gen Z has a bad rep now because there were some people that were just incredibly flaky, that were taking advantage of the system. We have, Gen Z workers out there whining on TikTok or whatever it is, Reddit, and it's making the whole generation look bad. Now employers won't hire Gen Z. And the same thing will happen here. Like, we're not going to hire this person. Somebody walks in my office with purple hair, I'm not hiring them because they're going to be a screeching activist. I don't know that for sure, but you're going to look at that and you're going to be like, yeah, because every person that screeches about pronoun usage or whatever, they wind up being some crazy ass activist. And there's a look, purple hair, side shave, the whole thing. There's a reason that's a trope. Cat eye glasses, what I'm saying? So that's what's going to happen. And it's actually going to, and that the person that walks in your office just happens to be those things, might actually be the most qualified person, but because of the negative experiences that other people have had, they're not going to get hired. Right? People are going to be like, oh, it's one of those. It's one of those. We're not going to hire one of those. So again, back to this article. Sources tell me Microsoft also quietly made some big changes to its employee performance reviews, known internally as Connect. Microsoft has removed its company-wide security and diversity core priorities from its performance reviews, meaning employees no longer have to submit exactly what they did to improve security and diversity, what they plan to do in the future. One of these things is more important than the other. This is freaking Microsoft. We are the most secure and diverse operating system out there. Microsoft employees have always had to answer, what impact did your actions have in contributing to a more diverse and inclusive Microsoft? What a weird question to ask people. What impact did your actions have in contributing to a more secure Microsoft? Both of these questions have been removed, replaced with a simplified form that asks employees to reflect on the results they delivered and how they achieved them in any recent setbacks. Like every other fucking company, how would you rate yourself? Do you think you did a good job this year, in your opinion? And then your manager says, yeah, no, you suck. I can't imagine going into an office and sitting down, for a performance review and having somebody look at me straight faced and be like, what impact did your actions have in contributing to a more diverse and inclusive Microsoft? The performance review changes were announced through a Viva Engage post on Microsoft's employee news group instead of through a mass email. Microsoft described the change internally as a simplification and announced that core priorities now simply called goals, with at least one goal focused on security. In HR documentation, the company doesn't even use the word diversity anymore, opting for just inclusion instead. Security, inclusion, and strong people management remain essential to how we deliver impact at Microsoft. Inclusion is embedded in how you work, interact, and lead, reflecting our growth mindset culture. One employee who supports Microsoft's DEI initiatives and wishes to remain anonymous told me that adding the requirement to its performance reviews 5 years ago seemed completely insincere and performative. The fact that the company and most of corporate America just dropped it proved to me that it was always a shallow commitment. The employee wants depth and sincerity, and the great pumpkin will show up. We need more orange people working at Microsoft. They said that they weren't sincere. Hey, I've got news for you, anonymous Microsoft employee. No, most of these companies aren't sincere. And that's what we've been telling you probably for 5 or 6 years on this channel. They're not sincere. It is performative, right? And the only reason they did it is because they had to, or they felt like they had to. And now it's very obvious it has the opposite effect. They're going to drop that shit. They're going to be like, you know what? We just hire the best person for the job. There we go. Or we just replace them with AI. That's also a possibility. But yeah, and the thing is if you bring people in that are all about the DEI initiatives, then and they're activism minded, a lot of times these people, I'm going to be honest, they cause problems. They cause problems for the company because the company's never going to be enough. It's never going to be enough. You did this, and now you got to do that. Oh, if you're really sincere, you're going to have to do this. This person probably will start running at the mouth and probably get themselves fired. They'll probably be like, where'd the DEI program go? I just don't feel included anymore. It's like, you got a job. Just do your damn job. It doesn't matter what your skin color is or whatever, Other employees I've spoken to about the changes aren't surprised by Microsoft's walkback. Some point to Elon Musk's appearance on stage at Microsoft's Build conference earlier this year as a sign that Microsoft was cozying up to the Trump administration. Oh my God, guys, you mean these companies that put these messages out, they don't really mean it. They just want your fucking money. And they think that by saying these things that they're going to get your money or somebody else's money. Imagine that. Imagine that. The big megacorp is lying to you. The Bill Gates founded megacorp is lying to you. Oh my God. So they were incensed that Musk went to the Build conference. Wow, I didn't know that. The Gleam Group, the global LGBTQIA plus employees and allies at Microsoft, that's quite a mouthful. They were incensed by Musk coming to Build. Musk's appearance was part of a broader push by Satya Nadella, is that the guy who's in charge of Microsoft, to get Musk's Grok AI model onboarded to Azure in time for Build. Grok 3 was part of the Build announcements. Microsoft pushed ahead with private testing of Grok 4. It's now going to be a lot more difficult to judge those company values. Okay, wait, hold on here. So one Microsoft employee said at the time this was pushed out with a rushed security review, a coerced and unwilling engineering team, and in full opposition to our supposed company values. It's now going to be a lot more difficult to judge those company values. Microsoft is still publishing its Inside Inclusion newsletter and Code of Us stories, but they're not the same as having diversity and inclusion as a core priority for employees. The focus of the annual report are part of disclosures to shareholders. No, it's not, because that was public facing. I said these companies are still going to do what they're going to do, especially, if they're located in Seattle or, whatever. They're going to do what they're going to do. But yeah, it was all a lie. The cake is a lie. The rainbow confetti cake is a lie. I hate to be the one to tell you that. It's time to grow the fuck up because they're lying to you. These companies are lying to you. Of course they are. You thought they were your friends. And this goes back to the other video we talked about, with Gen Z, where I think in a lot of cases, Gen Z millennials really put too much on their companies. They want their companies to be like their family, to be like their parents. And you've got people at the company that are probably, you're very friendly with or might feel like family, and that's fine. But the company itself is an inanimate object, right? The company's job is to make money. And you don't make money when you piss off more than half of your potential customer base. And we're at a place right now, the economy sucks. I'm going to be honest, the economy is not good right now. These companies can't afford to piss off half their customers anymore. There's no more free money. And they're not getting it from venture capital now. And that was probably one of the mandates. So they're just like, yeah, it's a pain in the ass. We're going to drop it. That's all I'm saying. I'm going to wrap it up. Please subscribe. We'll talk later.